now close enough to 7 o'clock, I think it is, that we will call to meeting to order meeting of the trustees of the Village of North Bennington. We have trustees here in attendance, myself, pardon me, Scott, Greedy, and Ray Molyneux. On Zoom is Matthew Patterson and Tara Lauer. So we have everyone attending. We also have some members of the public here, and we also have a member of the public on Zoom. So, no, I haven't here.
There's that. Can I borrow that pen for a second?
And I got.
I'll give you a break. Okay, sit down. No problem.
So Scott is getting attendance signed up. But let us start with the first order of business. I know we have, pardon me, we have with us here is Ed Corey and his family. Sir, I'm not sure.
I'm VP for the.
A friend, okay, so.
It's your official.
Okay, all right. Since Mr. Corey is not on the agenda, we will ask what is the nature of the statement that you wish to make, so we know where on the agenda it will fit in.
I have just, one page.
Okay, but what is the topic, sir? Are you talking about any of the business that we have listed on the agenda?
One is the, and you told me.
Ray, can you look at this too, so we have two eyes? Unfortunately, and Matthew, I would need your opinion on this since you're most senior, but this does deal with Mr. Corey's land and the matter that is impending or in some litigation.
And also the village needed title.
Yes, but that, I think because it's all wrapped up, you are wrapping it up in one thing, because you're saying site visits can't be done until you set up some prerequisites here. We probably should not be addressing this here. Matthew, what do you think?
I agree.
So,
Without our attorneys both here, then I don't think we should be doing that.
yeah. So I think if you want to leave this for the trustees to read themselves, we can do that.
That's fine.
But I don't believe we can read this into the public. Thank you for attending though. And in the future, if you do have something and any,
I'm not gonna phone anymore.
okay, but any member of the public, if it is,
It's not working. You don't want to.
if you would be so kind as to listen to.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Okay.
Thank you.
But, okay, well, I'll hear it then.
Is that your pen?
No, it's just one that was going around with the tablet, so I don't know.
You, Scott, you took that in your finger.
No, I have that one.
Okay,
On the next there.
Got it.
all right. So,
Or recording.
so for the recording, Ray suggested that I finish the statement, and that is that the public is always invited to the meeting. Anything that the public wishes to discuss should be on an agenda so that other members of the public, should they wish to weigh in on whatever that item is, that can be done. Any member of the public wishing to discuss an item should get a hold of any member of the body or or Lori as clerk, and that can be properly scheduled. We will be, in just shortly here, we will be readopting our annual rules of procedure of this meeting. And at that point in time, I am going to take a minute and read the statement of public attendance.
Okay. The only other thing I think you ought to mention is the topics that are under litigation are not going to be discussed without proper representation of all parties.
Okay.
And not in public session.
Thank you for that. Did, Lori, was that clear enough? I think those of you hearing, good. Thank you. Okay. So Then we will move on to the first.
I'm not for attorney, but
No, I think that's the same thing that Matthew said, so thank you for
And
clarifying.
Ray speaks from many years of experience as
Thank
well.
you for clarifying that. So the next item on our agenda is the organization of the trustees for the year we're about to go in, the 2024-25 year, as voted at the annual meeting. And that requires election of a chair and a vice chair.
I nominate Mary Rogers as the chair.
Second,
I would happily ask if anyone else would like a turn. Oh,
I guess we
Tara.
want to do four.
Jeff.
I-
Tara, or have you considered?
I absolutely do not have the time in the day to do everything that you do. I'm barely keeping up right now.
Oh, hold on, we got somebody coming in.
I think that's the truth for all of us.
Okay.
yes.
Well, I
That is
will,
probably even the truth.
I will do so
Person You're
if-
willing to serve by day.
if no one else will, but I will say that if this is the third year, that I would really encourage somebody else being able to step up, or perhaps at another date, we can kind of reorganize who does what. All of you have pitched in and helped on projects this year, and it is just too much for one person to do, so thank you all for doing that. Is everybody in? Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm watching Zoom and I thought it popped up. So anyway, any other discussion?
I'm happy for you to continue to delegate to all of us the parts and the pieces to make it work.
Any more than you wish.
I agree with that.
So we need a vote,
Yes, we need a vote, as Ray said.
yes, and,
I will call that question.
okay.
All in favor?
I,
All opposed? Abstaining? Me. Okay, now that we've got that, the next thing I'd like to do is looking and annually adopting our rules of procedure as we have done for the last several years. But
Mary?
since, yes,
We have to do a vice chair and
oh my gosh, thank you.
Other people,
other people.
No, well, at this point, we're just doing the trustees.
yes.
Yes, so we do need a vice chair.
I nominate Tara Lowry for that.
second,
Yes, I think we're all racing to second that one. If there's no discussion, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? No abstaining, good, thank you.
Did Tara vote for it?
I didn't see, I will assume Tara
Abstain.
voted.
I have to abstain.
Tara's abstaining, okay. Then the other, the other appointments that we have to do, we will get to on the agenda as they were listed. So now let's look at the rules of procedure. I just would like to briefly, these are on the website, they have been for a couple of years. But let me briefly read the public participation section, since we did have that. All meetings of the body are meetings in the public, not of the public. Members of the public shall be afforded a reasonable opportunity to express opinions about matters considered by the body, as long as order is maintained according to these rules. At the beginning of each agenda item, but before any action is taken by the public body at the meeting, there may be 5 minutes afforded for open public comment. By majority vote, the body may increase the time for open public comment and place it on the agenda. Comment by the public or members of the body must be addressed to the chair or to the body as a whole, not to any individual member of the public or body. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, he or she may not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be observed by all persons present at the meeting. Neither members of the body nor members of the public shall delay or interrupt the proceedings or the peace of the meeting, or interrupt or disturb any member while speaking. Members of the body and members of the public are prohibited from making personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks. Members of the body and members of the public shall obey the orders of the chair or other presiding member. The chair should adhere to the following procedures to restore order and decorum of the meeting, but may bypass any or all steps when he or she determines in his or her sole discretion that deviation from the process is warranted. A, call the meeting to order and remind the public of the applicable rules of procedure. B, declare a recess or table the issue. C, adjourn the meeting until a time and date certain. D, order law enforcement to remove disorderly person or persons from the meeting. That was the public section. The rest of it is what we have previously agreed to, and that is the organization and order of the meeting and who does what.
I make a motion to adopt the rules of procedure.
Second.
Seconded there. Any comment by those of you on Zoom? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous, so we don't need to go any further. Thank you.
That's very well thought out. I think
This,
that,
by the way, I did not write this.
No,
This
no,
comes
well-
from open meeting law that Chris and I attended, an open meeting discussion this week.
Nonetheless, it was well.
Okay,
you're well thought
but
out.
I don't want to take credit for it, that's all.
We weren't giving you.
That's right. We weren't giving you credit.
I have one
Yes,
thing
yes.
to observe about the actual agenda here. It does not have a particular line item for public comments.
No, and it doesn't, because the public is afforded, they are supposed to say what they are here to talk about. And then if their item doesn't fit in, it goes
That's
under,
in the acknowledgement of public attendance, is it?
this is just how the public participation goes, but the order of the meetings and the organization of the meeting is described here.
Here.
Once the agenda is set, that's the agenda, then this body
Okay,
agrees to amend this agenda, and that's why we put this first, to amend the agenda if required.
okay.
So had that comment been allowed,
We would have done that
You-
by amending. so,
Yes.
um,
yes, and we could, at that point, we could have said it belongs in new business, and it will be done there, or we could have reordered the agenda here
correct.
and let somebody go earlier. Okay, so we got that done, thank you.
All right.
And there,
Yes,
the planning commission does exactly the same thing in its agenda.
yes, thank you.
We follow the same form.
And it is advised by, open meeting law that any, village meeting or, what do you call it, committees thereof should also have this, something like this adopted. Oh,
It's just I'm, you know, for 23 years, I'm accustomed to doing it differently in school. records. So it's always in my head that that's the way.
okay,
Even though I know it's often been at the end of the business before.
okay. Now we will move to adopting minutes of our Tuesday, March 12th meeting. I believe everyone had these minutes.
Yep. I'll make a motion that we adopt.
Ray is making a motion,
Second,
seconded by Matthew. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Another unanimous
No,
thing.
one abstention, I wasn't
Oh,
there.
got that, thank you. I didn't even notice that. Okay. Right. And by the way, you are allowed to vote, even if you're not here. You may be comfortable abstaining, but once you read minutes, you are allowed by open meeting law to approve such.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now, keep me on track here, folks. Okay, so we got, okay,
Warmed up.
norms up. Oh, and we're way ahead of time.
I like it ahead of time.
Okay, Go ahead, Norm, all yours.
Well, obviously, winter decided it wasn't over very shortly, so we took a little break from springtime and went back to winter operations. You'll see it around town, cleaning brush, towel rollers, our next one, fixing lawns, divots, pieces, that get damaged during snow plowing. We had swept the village once, the sidewalks twice. We'll continue to do that as time allows, what I mean, it's doing that every year. We met with our engineer on Hall Street, we have started working on that. Again, that will be a very slow process because of just the challenges that that street, holds. We have investigated, doing some small paving projects this year, doing them in the spring. One is George Street, the other is Frederick Street, which are very small streets. I did ask Ted to, make sure he had any water shut off problems, so we'll follow up with Zach now on that, and Jimmy. So I don't believe that there's any other issues. There is a drainage issue at the end of the Elwell Field property. But I've talked with the, homeowner just behind that. Oh, boy, I can't think of his name, but.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes, and, we're gonna put a culvert under his driveway that probably should have been done when it was first put in, but whatever, that was done before my time. And that will allow water to get off of both sides of the road into that low spot and then eventually make its way over the bank. So that'll be good, and that street will be, done. We've started with some turnaround access, litigation. I know I saw an email back and forth, but, we gotta get the lawyer going on that a little bit.
So just if I can interject, it's not litigation that's required, but the lawyer will help draft the proper document to allow the easement for the vehicle to turn around at the end of Village Street.
Yes, that's,
And the homeowner.
yes, completely agree.
Yes.
Yep, that's smooth sailing, and, we really hope to see that day, probably before July 1st. Again, Frederick Street will be easy, it's just a little short street, we might as well get a little bang for our buck when they're in the neighborhood. So we've got those, again, we've got our long range projects of, Hall Street. We've also met down by the library and started with that being the turnaround. I know there's been some comments, on the World Wide Web. I don't think they're completely accurate, from some citizens, but we have started it to figure out how we're gonna fix that corner. No plan, I think, is set in stone completely yet, but we have a really good concept, and that may go.
And there will be public meetings on both Hall Street and the, corner down on, what do you call that, West and,
West and Main.
and Main.
Water.
There will be public comment before anything is decided.
We haven't forgotten about Park Street, that's
That's
still
right.
on the plate. That's a little, it's got its own technical challenges as well. When we're on that, grading will start pretty soon. We can't get more than 2 or 3 days without big monsoon season, so it's better to kind of leave it the way it is, but eventually we'll get to it once we finish our brushing on College Road, which should be this week. So that ties those up. Now our projects that we have already started, we have a partnership project with the state of Vermont, again, by North Bennington Variety. All the material has been bought except for the gravel that it'll just come from Daly's, they'll furnish it as it goes. We met with the contractor for the sidewalk, so pretty much, I would say around the 1st of May, we'll probably be starting that. We've investigated doing some work on Church Street, which will be if our target goes this year, we'll put in curb and be ready for a sidewalk next year. And we'll have a dirt sidewalk there. There's some stuff in it and with Mary and myself about whether to have a grass strip, not a grass strip. There's some poles that are kind of a problem, you know, so we've got to work that out. But it'll all be, hopefully curb and dirt and, like the upper, Bank Street was for 1 year. And we'll get that squared away. Our truck's on order, the one that's, you know,
Yeah.
general regular replacement. I don't know where that is, sitting in that pile, but there's no sense of, you know, once it's in the world of the dealerships, it's there. So that's about it, I mean, regular park maintenance,
Do you want to talk about what we now know as White's Mill Dam? That's at the fire station?
well, yeah.
What you've got?
We've been contacted, started, some people were concerned about the wall on the firehouse side, it's kind of undermining just a smidge. It's not bad as far as the dam people inspecting it, saying it, but we have a quote, I think it was about $5,000 to recap that wall, rebore that and bring the stones all into it.
Okay.
So it wasn't a lot of money, we're just working with I'm waiting for the dam safety people to get back to us.
Did they decide, so we haven't heard whether we need their permission yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay,
No, they're not the fastest.
okay. But let me go back 1 second, can I go over that I just gave you?
Yes, I didn't have, I was
Oh,
listening
that's okay.
to,
That's okay,
Mark.
but,
Yeah.
but this is this, I think we should get a motion on this. For Norm to be able to do the George and Frederick Streets paving that he was just talking about. He has a proposal there for $54,990. And we confirmed with Doug that that is within the budget for this current year, so we can do this within budget. So I think, we need to have a motion and a
So moved.
consent. Okay,
I'll make a second.
and a second on that. Those of you on Zoom, any comment? Hearing none,
What was the
okay.
other street?
It's George and Frederick.
Frederick,
Oh, in Frederick also.
Yeah.
that's a little, might be 100-yard
Yeah.
street.
No, that's good.
You know what I mean, but it's to tie it up, we're piggybacking off of our same bid last year for
Right.
prices. So as long as we do it this calendar year, the same contractor paid 3/4 streets for us.
What about, when the culvert went in, if you don't mind my asking?
No, of course.
There was a plan to repave all the way up to the stop sign.
There is.
Is that in the works still or not?
Well, yes and no, yes, it is very much on the table, it is in the works. Right now, there is a concept by the water department of putting a new water line
Oh,
up that
correct,
street.
yes, I forgot about that, yeah.
You see, on the town of Bennington side, they did a bunch of, tree removal and ditching, and that was actually going to pave that year. And hopefully, when that comes apart, my last comment with Ted, he was thinking it might be a year or two before, and I know they spoke with Bennington, so I believe that.
So the
that
water
was
will
gonna
be a
done.
year or two out?
Yes,
Okay, so then it doesn't make sense to pave that part.
that is correct.
Okay,
And
good.
I think that they, in turn, are gonna hold off as well. When that street gets paved, we would certainly, want to partner with them and pave from the bottom to the top. Yeah.
The engineering study on that was done. We approved and sent in all the signatures on that a month or two ago. And so now there is a round 2 of that grant that needs to be applied for.
Okay,
Indication are that it's a project that is a priority, but even priority.
this is a water department priority, you mean?
No, it's a, clean water kind of a priority
Oh, okay. All
to
right,
get, because there are still people that have PFOA in
Oh,
the
in the
well.
wells,
So
yes,
they
so the
have-
water department
Right,
would be.
so they have
getting grant.
the filter systems at their house, but this would just replace that, and then those folks would not need that.
Isn't there also a main line going there that's, is
That
that
would
going to
be
be
too.
replaced?
Yes, yes, there is 100-year-old one.
Yeah, right, that's the original.
Correct.
Something, yes.
So that is probably happening, but who knows
Yeah.
when. So anyway, any other questions on that paving before we look at this motion?
No.
$54,990 was motioned by Scott, seconded by Ray, and all in favor.
Aye.
All unanimous. Okay, thank you. Not to interrupt, but I thought that was important to get that for that amount of money on
No.
here. And we did Hall Street. Now, did you have any other things you wanted to talk about?
No, I think, we're trudging along, just like we normally do at this time of year, so, we start maintenance, costs go up. I went with Kim, we went and, looked at the dams, I think that's what he wanted to talk about. We got, when the dam inspector comes, they're supposed to let us know. He, she, they, whatever, and we're supposed to be able to go with them, partner with them and see what's going on.
I'd like to be included if possible.
They don't want a whole lot of people.
Oh,
I mean, if you want to be included, but by no means,
but Mary can't go.
I'm not voting.
They
No, I got it. No.
don't want a whole lot of people.
No.
Okay, but if it's possible, give me a ring.
Yeah, I'm sure very much
I
can probably go.
agree with-
Yeah, I think you should have a chance to.
If he comes on Friday afternoon, you can have my spot.
You move to the top of the list.
Okay, so two other things then. Number one, just a little out of order, but, Norm, you sent me the information from Green Up Day that the town of Bennington is inviting the village of North Bennington to join, with the town of Bennington and do projects for Green Up Day.
Like, we've done that for the last.
Can you
5 years.
explain that? Because I don't remember.
Bring up day to get the bags, the way it's kept track of the municipal dump, it all goes through, there'll be 3 posts around town, plus it'll be on social media everywhere. So you call, over, and I believe it's Linda Bermuda that takes care of those. Could be Whitney LeBlanc at the White House in the town of Bennington. And you'll sign up and they'll give you bags, it's just how we keep track of who's got them and who doesn't. It's a humongous help for us, because I didn't get home and have to make 15 phone calls at 3 o'clock,
So this is open for organizations
Anyway,
or individuals that walk their dog to take a bag with them and
that's correct.
do that, okay.
And throughout Bennington, North Bennington, Old Bennington, throughout our community.
Okay,
And then, like I said, usually it's May 4th, for the Trekkies, May the 4th be with you. And, we usually we put a dump truck down at the firehouse, so if somebody wants to go back there, toss it in. And, so certainly the next day we go around and pick everything up.
okay, so my question would be, if people were not around on a weekend, can they do this a day or two before that?
I believe so,
Okay.
just leave the green bag out.
Okay.
I don't see a problem.
Okay,
I mean, if somebody calls, the village office, which is the numbers listed in our website, we would come pick it up. We're small enough, we can do
Okay.
that. Bigger municipalities will do that.
okay. So we can put this on our website and we'll put it in our regular places that we post things. Would you want our assistants to contact other organizations like VAE or the graded school?
Well, you can send out a blast email,
Okay.
if you have a file, like, Sandra does for the community events, that would be certainly nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe Tara is that something that if I send you this PDF, it's a nice little color PDF. Would you be able to get that blasted out to the round table?
I could get it to the people.
Okay. Thanks, we'll do that too.
I mean, Mary,
Yes,
why don't you give it to me, because I
okay,
do that a lot, and I have 5 or 6 e-blast groups that I could do it for?
Perfect.
Okay, Tara?
Yeah. Okay, I'll send this to you guys tonight. I just saw it this afternoon or this evening.
And then what, is there a specific date? I know you can do it before and after and all around, but is there
I
a,
think
May 4th is the day.
is the green up day. But as I recall, we tried to do this one time before, and some of the schools were doing things like on a Friday or a Thursday or something like that. So I'm gonna send this to all trustees and everyone, actually anyone here on this email that I have an email.
The school's done this before.
Yeah.
They've done it in the morning and we've kind of picked it up.
Okay,
You know, critters we don't get it, or, you know, we, one year been brought to the firehouse.
Okay.
You know,
all right. Will do.
I'd like to ask Lori to make sure that, I'm sure she will, just saying it, to be saying it.
Yes.
To make sure the village school.
Lori will make sure that the village school gets it, yes.
So
She's
we should
not.
also send it to Southshire.
Southshire and, they did it last year. Southshire did it last year. VAE did something last year as well. Just not as an organized.
It's $1,000 on your list.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. So the only other thing I have on under highway department is to, appoint Norm as our second representative to the Regional Emergency Management Committee. We need to appoint tonight 2 representatives to this. The second one will come under, we'll discuss that when we get to the fire department. But I briefly chatted with Norm and he agreed he would try this for 1 year. It involves attending quarterly meetings of all other municipalities in the area. Kim is very knowledgeable about this group as well. They are public meetings, so anyone is invited to go, but the village specifically is asked to have two
I make a
representatives.
motion that we appoint Norm as the second representative to the REMC.
I'll second that.
And that is seconded here. Any discussion or questions from the group here? Anyone on email have a question or a concern? Confirming, Norm, that you.
Who's the first? That would be.
We have a ton
We're
of
gonna,
agenda.
yeah, I think that should be we can talk about it.
No.
Yeah, okay, so if there's no other discussion on that, call that question, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mary,
Yes,
you mentioned that you were going to work on the White Dam, the White Mills Dam.
Yeah, we've got, with the contractor, we're waiting on the dam people to get back to us to say that, yes, the river guy, he's all happy. You know, we've had a proven track record with them. We do everything we need to do, and
Because there's a bridge inspection report about spalling under the Prospect Street. You go down there, it's concrete, you might as well.
well, that's a whole other, you know, that spalling, we did that when we put the new sidewalks on the bridge. So that is, it's just like a spackle, you know, it means sand painted roof, that's all, it's a code. It's just more for looks. I think if we'll get some, lower water, we'll get down in there and we'll take a peek at it ourselves. And if we are, we can certainly, you know, the trustees will make our little field trip, you know, we'll look at it and, you know, then we can we can call the same contractor back and see if they want to repost it. You know, I'm sure it needs maintenance like everything else, but
Yeah.
it's more cosmetic than structural.
They said it was a foot deep, that's why I mentioned it. So,
Yeah, that would also help it shed water and ice a little bit better than a rough surface would.
Well, what I see, it's on the top.
I don't actually know where this is, so, you know, I'm speaking.
On the bottom.
it's at the-
Well, the one on the dam is definitely at the bottom. It's on the bridge.
It's at the water.
Yeah, once the water gets down, it gets a little warm.
Sure.
thank you. Any other questions, comments for Norm? Then we can move right on. Okay.
Thank you, Norm.
Okay, all right. So they are gonna go out and discuss that. The next item we have is appointment of a fire chief and 2 assistants as required under charter. Unfortunately, I do not have any email for the fire department other than our outgoing, chief and assistants. All information was sent to them, but I haven't heard. Nevertheless, we know that at least, former Chief Ed Myers was voted by their group. And so we have that name, and then we had, who were the, Andy Myers, thank you, that was a name. And
Was he first or second?
I don't know, charter doesn't,
He wouldn't be the chief, but he
No.
would be the assistant.
he could be an assistant. Charter doesn't require us to say who's first or second.
No.
It just requires us to name 2.
It was Andy and then Joe Brown, I believe.
Oh, thank you, okay, okay. So if we can entertain a motion for those.
I make that motion.
That was made by Ray,
I'll second it.
it's seconded by Scott. Is there any discussion? Comments? Okay, so be it. Oh, all in favor? Aye, unanimous.
All right.
Now we have to, and this is where we kind of would need, Chief Myers here. We need to discuss appointment of the Emergency Operations Center Director. That should be the fire chief.
Yes.
And the Emergency Management Director, the first representative to the REMC. They don't,
We're gonna have to postpone this?
I wonder if we shouldn't, because I assume,
Have their consent?
yes, I would assume chief would take this role,
Well,
but I don't know.
isn't it, not recommended for the fire chief to take that role because he's at site on an emergency?
Right, it
It's a
is,
communications
it
job.
is, best practices says that it shouldn't be, but a lot of the smaller municipalities say that it have it just because there's so few people to volunteer.
Okay,
And our
that's my
charter,
next question.
right, and
Are
the
there
charter.
other names for it at
No,
all?
no, Kim has done this, and another member of the planning commission has done some work.
If it's a communication thing.
Yes.
What, I mean, well, I'm thinking that, Cindy Myers said he's the communications person
Oh,
for the part.
well, that's a great piece of news.
I mean, I heard her say it, I don't know if she intends to.
She's very good on the phone,
She's
sure.
very good.
Then that would be perfect.
So,
But still,
well,
we're gonna have to put this off, I think.
Well, we do, now we need to have our local emergency management plan, the LEMC, that must be adopted by this body before the end of this month. So we will have to continue this meeting, so we know those names and get that contact information.
Okay.
We can hold off on, even though we were supposed to make our REMC appointments at the beginning of the month, we can hold off on that. That would be ideal if.
Didn't we
Cindy-
vote on the, representative already?
We only voted on the
Yeah,
second.
it's the second.
Norm is the second, we don't have the primary.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want to do that without somebody saying yes, because that person must be able to respond rapidly to emails.
Right.
Okay.
So I don't want to put that burden on someone should they not want to do so.
So you're suggesting we
I
continue
think
this
we have to
meeting
continue this
to a
meeting.
later date in the month?
Yes, and, we have to have, Lori, do we do that right now, or do we just do that at the end of the meeting?
Well, we should do it at the end.
Okay,
Well,
And I did just try calling Ed, but I didn't get an answer.
Okay,
Okay, and Lori, remind us if we forget to bring that up at the end, please.
that we need to continue this
Yes,
meeting.
right.
Okay. Let me make my notes there. Then let's move, we're way ahead of time. Let's move to the,
Nothing wrong.
monthly warrants. And Doug, take these in any order you wish.
Yep, I'll do payroll first, nothing out of the ordinary. 2 pay periods, 1 Aflac, grand total, for the month of March was $12,339.
Yeah, this is totally ordinary, you know?
Yes, nothing, like I said, completely, nothing out of the ordinary, regular 2 pay period and 1 Aflac.
So I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Approve the payroll.
Yes.
Second,
I'll get signatures on this and then we'll give all of this to Lori. Oh, I go past that. You wanna, oh, wait a minute,
We just need, we've got a
Okay,
first and a
I know, thank you for keeping me on track here, I'm thinking too much. Payroll warrant, motion approved, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
You're up next.
Yes, so we have, I combined the late March and the April because the late March, there wasn't, too many on there. So instead of doing 2 separate warrants, I did 1. I will hit some of the highlights, and then if anybody has any questions, I did send out the warrant detail. North Bennington Graded School, those were for delinquent taxes collected. Weed precast, that is for the drop inlets that Norm and Kyle, got and are going to be using. West Oil, that is actually, the one in April is actually for March and April. I forgot to put the March on the late March warrant. So the West Oil is for 2 months of our budget, prepay. Well, at this point, it's not
Okay.
prepay, but.
Yeah.
And I am going to be double checking with them because if my records are correct, April is our last payment. So I will be double checking,
Okay.
on that.
And could we also update that spreadsheet on who used what to see
Yes, I
whether
have that on my
whether
list to
we
finish.
owe them more or less
Yeah.
for this last one? Thank you.
Yeah, I have that, so
Okay.
I can have that out, before the May meeting. I have that on my list to do I have, a batch of the last, deliveries to update.
Okay.
So, and I might have missed 1 or 2, so I'm gonna go back through, I have all the emails saved. So the, total for late March and April is $43,265.82.
Well, I'll make a motion, but then I have a question, so I'll need a second.
I'll second, and then I have a question too.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead and ask the question.
Go ahead, Scott, you can go first.
Okay, let's see, weed precast, that
Yeah,
was fairly
that's the drop
sizable.
inlets. That's the drop inlets for the Mechanic Street project.
Oh, gotcha, okay,
Yeah.
how many did we get?
That I'm not sure. I don't have the invoice here. How many ever we
I
need?
think there's 2.
Three,
I
2?
think there's
So
2.
2,500 each, wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's other, you're right. There's multiple pieces
To each
that
one.
come with it.
Yes, yeah,
The
yeah.
invoice has, multiple lines broken out on it.
Right.
If
Okay.
Norm was here, he could tell
He'd
us,
tell you
but I
immediately,
think
but
there
yes.
was 2.
What's the Legion's trucks? That's repair or?
I believe it is. Let me look here real quick. Bear with me for just a second and I will let you know.
I'm not questioning this, I just want to be familiar with.
Nope, and that's why I have the detail right here, so I can pull that up. Because that one I don't remember off the top of my head. Some of them I do.
Oh, it's under vehicle,
Yeah,
highway
vehicle
vehicle maintenance.
Okay, you're looking at the summary, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it says miscellaneous under the description.
I could have done this, I just didn't.
Did we mention what Carrot Top was?
But what is that?
Yep, that one is.
That's,
Well, we paid that one before too.
Yeah,
That's
and I
not a
had
new
that.
vendor.
Yeah, hold on. Those are for, the flags
Oh,
that Norm gets.
for the telephone poles?
Yes, every April, Norm takes inventory of all the flags and replaces any ones that need replacing.
Okay, so that's US flags?
Yes, United States flags.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Tara or Matt? Okay, then there was a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. That looked unanimous. Okay,
Right.
so here, we'll let you guys do this. I will collect everything that needs to go to Lori for signature, and we're still on
Yes.
yours. Okay,
So several updates here. Delinquent taxes, actually had some pretty good collections in the month of March and actually the beginning of April. So the village principal amount outstanding is down to just over 10,000. And there is only 3 parcels that are outside of the current tax billing year. And 2 of those only owe a small penalty and interest. So there's really only 1. And that parcel is under a payment plan. There is monthly payments that are being made on that particular parcel.
Fantastic.
How does that stack up to previous decades? Are we, seems like we're in pretty good
Previous
shape.
decades, I don't know.
Well,
Within the
I mean,
last,
well,
within the
they
last
probably
3 to,
know.
within the
I
last
would
3 to
know.
4 years.
it's an excellent,
Yeah.
I think so, I was gonna comment on that.
yes.
Yeah, so when we went to delinquent the week after the tax due of November 10th, we were up about 22% from the prior year. But from November to December, the collection was up, I don't know the percentages, but it was up significantly. So while it was more, people it seemed just paid that within that first 4 to 6 week period.
Right.
So now we're kind of trending on track with the past couple of years. And again, there's several parcels that are, I don't have the exact number within this year that have just small penalties and fees. Like they paid the bulk of the taxes and they just have the remaining part due, which is still owed, so it will get collected, but it's not a significant portion.
I think it's great.
And then I have a handful of folks that have been in contact with me, not necessarily under payment plan, but what we would consider a promise to pay. They're working on A, B, or C to get things in order. So there are other folks, like I said, that I've been in contact with, so it's trending in the right direction. Cash balances, I'm working on that report. I did some reserve funding. I have to make a couple of tweaks. The bank had a couple in the wrong spot, so I gotta get those moved to get that updated, and I'll get those updates out to everybody. The search for an accountant continues. We've been in contact with a couple folks who couldn't do it. I have a couple more out. And I did speak with the current bookkeeper of the water department, who has a contact for a accountant that she has worked with in the past. So the 2 that I'm waiting to hear back from don't work out, that's my next one. So again, hopefully sooner rather than later, we get that wrapped up. We have come to a resolution. We have finished up our Comcast changeover. Comcast at the depot and Comcast internet at the garage is done and canceled. We will still have a Comcast account, the phone line and other local service at the garage is going to remain. We're not going to switch those over. We're going to keep those landlines because Norm does need those phones. So to switch it over to the internet-based phone might not work as well. So we decided to keep those there. So you'll see probably 1, maybe 2 more Comcast billings over the next month, because there'll be a partial bill for when the cancellation was, and then that will be all done other than the 1 account that will remain.
How much did we save with Fidium?
Yeah, we were in the, I think it was about $150 a month total was what it was working out to of all 3 locations. Because the fire department was already on the Fidium, but we actually got a reduction there by adding, everything else. This building was the most significant savings. And then the garage was a little bit, because like I said, we're still keeping the physical phone line. So there is no, not that we've been putting this phone number out there, but there is no more phone here at the depot. The treasurer, I have a cell phone, which is listed on the website. The zoning administrator has a cell phone, which is listed on the website. And the clerk has a phone. So there are, and the garage has a phone. So there are many ways, and all email addresses are listed on the website. So there is plenty of ways to get a hold of folks within the village, without having a landline here. Just, there was no reason for it.
Yeah.
Couple other quicker things. So one thing that I wanted to try to wrap up, end of last fiscal year into the beginning of this fiscal year, the village received the opioid settlement money from the national settlement. The village received a total of $2,214.73. We need to spend 75% of that to education/training. At one of the meetings several months ago, we had talked about, I think Scott brought up Turning Point. So if we can potentially discuss a motion to approve that and get that along, I would be happy to cut a check and send a letter telling them where the money's coming from and directing it to education/training. Because we have to show, if they decide to audit, we have to show that we spent that money properly.
And then would we receive either at the school or the village some service from that donation?
Well, Turning Point serves the greater Bennington area.
Right.
So I don't know how much restriction we want to place on that donation to them.
Yeah, I'm not, I just
So
don't know.
I don't either, to be completely honest with you. I just know I've kind of been keeping it, and I'd rather make a decision as to where we're gonna get this money so that we're not.
We could ask for a report about how they, whether they serve clients in the city.
You know, that probably would be good, because I wonder for our audit trail, if we should have here's the check we
I'm
sent,
sure they do.
and then here's what they did with the money.
Sure.
I just don't know legally, or is the giver of that money responsible for how the receiver spends it?
Everything that I read
Okay,
was saying you have to spend 75% of it on either drug treatment, training, or outreach.
oh, well then that
So
would, yeah,
Turning Point checks all those
That's all
boxes.
of them, yeah.
Yes.
And there's nothing within the
It
literature that
doesn't say a restriction to serving your particular locality precisely.
correct.
And so.
And I also think, based on the smaller amount, that we fall way down on the list as far as documentation goes.
This will do, this will be fine, and we know it will be
I'm in
helpful.
full support of the Turning Point option, regardless of whether there's need in the community, and I'm sure there is, but
Yeah.
any given month, it'll be different, and just give it,
yeah,
we
Okay.
work to get that money, and we're gonna hand it over to the people who know how to use it.
Yeah.
so was that a motion on your part, Matthew?
Was indeed.
Okay,
I
I will,
second it.
Ray is seconding that,
Can you repeat it, please? It's a little,
Do you want me to?
yes,
Yeah, so Lori, so the motion will read that the village will be donating $1,661.05 as a portion of the national opioid settlement received to Turning Point of Bennington. And then you have Matthew as a first and Ray as a second.
And I have one more quick question.
yes.
The remaining 25%, what happens?
So the village, the receiving municipality is allowed to keep 25% for what they consider administrative costs due to the opioid crisis. So it doesn't have to be that we had a specific, we can say this is what it cost us because members of our community suffered from the opioid crisis. The part of the settlement was the pharmaceutical companies that are funding this know that they caused the greater problem.
Okay.
So they're saying 25% can be retained as part of that issue that they created.
maybe we ought to have a discussion about whether we want to do it that way. Do we have to? We don't have to do it.
We do not, but I think I would rather have that be a separate discussion.
Yes.
Do the 75%.
Yes.
I totally agree, and I was only suggesting it as a separate discussion.
Right.
Perfect.
I also then, just out of curiosity, what's the 25%? A few $100s?
So the difference, so it's, 600 and change, almost 700.
Okay. All right.
It's not insubstantial.
No, it's not insubstantial, but there are also some.
So I mean, I guess if we wanted to have a separate motion to direct me to do that, or if we want to discuss it.
Well, I think, I asked for information from Turning Points about whether they serve, just an idea of how distributed their services
Yeah,
are.
if they have a
over the
demographic
years.
or location.
Mhm.
And, maybe a little report on what those services are, although we
Yeah.
have an idea. But,
Yeah, I can include that in the
and
letter.
then maybe we can make a decision.
I feel like if they can validate that they're serving anybody in the community, in the broader community that needs these services, I want them to have all the money.
And let me ask you this though, or do these schools in our community, whether it's high school or elementary, do schools have any sort of drug, not curricular, what would you call it? Any awareness or education, or a school nurse that may need to be involved?
So I believe,
So,
We could think about that.
yeah,
I believe the high school has an intervention.
Yes.
I don't
Okay.
know if they are there on a permanent basis or if they are a traveling person,
Okay.
but I do know that there is some sort of an interventionist at the high
Okay.
school.
so
So
I,
again, I think
So that's an alternative.
Yeah.
for the remaining portion,
so
absolutely.
let's give that some thought.
I think that's a good idea.
Yes,
Lori knows of any programs that are school sponsored that might benefit.
Let me, I do have a list and I can forward that to you guys later.
yeah, let's do that later.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd be
Okay.
supportive of either elementary education or perhaps more useful would be needle exchange programs, something that's outside of the box,
Maybe we need to develop a set of alternatives.
But I think we should
Finish with this.
get the schools and even Head Start. I don't know what they might have to deal with, or who knows what family services or Sunrise, whatever family services are provided. I think if we get a list,
Parents do a review.
yeah, we can make some good use of that.
So we just need to have a vote for the turning
Yes.
point motion.
We
That's
just, thank you for
certainly
that. We took, any other question on the turning point motion, the motion to, no?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
I
But I do have one more comment.
Yes,
I just remembered that I got a grant through the collaborative that was centered on Refuse to Use, which is a whole program to, benefit groups of children basically that are vulnerable populations. I'm wondering if the collaborative would be able to make use of that money in some way.
Well, that's another,
yeah,
if you can provide information on that,
Yeah,
that's something.
I think all of these are great.
I'll
ideas.
keep the amount earmarked so that I remember how much the difference is and we'll revisit it.
Yeah.
I have one more item.
Yes, please, you have plenty of time.
I will still way ahead. At the annual meeting, there was a question regarding the assessments, meaning the appraisal
Oh.
process. I emailed John, who is the assessor in the town of Bennington, which the majority of the village, well, all of the village falls under. So he sent me a paragraph back. I'm just gonna read it verbatim so that it comes directly. So I asked him, I said there was a question regarding when it was going to happen, what the process was going to be. All dates are still to be determined. Town management and I will be formulating a request for proposal that will be sent to the certified assessment firms soon. There is a limited number of qualified firms, so we will see what sort of response and communicate and communicate timing we get back. All indications I would get would not be prior to 2026. The reappraisal period would be about 2 years. He will keep me up to date. He said if any resident has any questions, they can contact him directly at the village office. And again, that's from John, the assessor.
John Antione.
There you go. I didn't know how to say his last name, so I didn't want to butcher it.
My kids went to school with, hit one of his relatives, so that's how I know.
Yep.
Okay.
And anytime I've ever asked him a question, he's been great. So like I said,
Very,
he sent
very
it and he said, anybody has any questions, but
But that's not actually good news.
it's not great news at all.
Why?
Because
So
we're
it
hoping that
won't
was
be
gonna get
finished
done
until
quicker.
2028.
2028, right?
Right.
Well, that's.
Because
a
that
long
ambulance
thing.
doesn't
That's a
move.
long time away. Yeah.
Well, the prices may stabilize in between then. Well, we COVID.
Well, but stabilize and go down is two different things. If they stabilize where they are right now,
That's good,
well, it's good for the grand list, but
right,
Well,
well,
the grand is not necessarily good for.
I think what triggered this reassessment is,
People see on their.
it's a CLA.
well, no, I get that part, but the influx of the COVID refugees into Vermont,
Well, that drove your
which
price.
drove the prices crazy.
Right.
And that's, kind of subsiding, so that things may get back to normal.
Hasn't subsided. If you look at property transfers, they're still through the roof.
Oh, really?
Oh, goodness.
Oh,
There's not one property that's selling for sometimes double assessment. Bennington, if you go to the Bennington's webpage, they post all the property transfers month by month, almost in real time. I mean, they're very good about posting it. And they post seller, buyer, address, purchase price, and assessed value. So you can see what the purchase price was and what the property was assessed for. What's that?
And the seller.
Purchase price, yes.
So-
No, that's fine.
So if we have to wait 4 more years, how does that affect us?
Well, let me say this. In terms of what people have to pay, it doesn't affect anything. It's a cosmetic thing because they see an elevated rate compared to what they've been seeing. But it's the spending that drives overall, you still have to meet the spending needs of the school, the municipality, whatever. And, those are what actually drive the rate.
Right.
However, it's a shock. These past 2 years have been a huge shock to people about the rate that they're seeing. And, so I guess my point is that it's really about what things cost.
Right.
And what you have to spend to operate a municipality and school system. And those
Hey.
come.
Doesn't it also really affect our statewide education budget
Yeah,
in the way that we're punished because we're at, 70% of CLA or whatever?
Right,
And
that's the greater good, well, I don't say greater good,
But-
that's the greater item that's driving this at this particular point in time is that CLA calculation that prior to the COVID period, which is 100% accurate, was floating along, no problem.
Yeah, it was pretty stable.
You get a market that gets a little bit out of tilt, and it shows that calculation is not a stable calculation.
right. True, but it's still the spending, the underlying spending that drives this.
Yep.
It's, what people were experiencing was that CLA gave them a certain certainty about the rate, and then all of a sudden it jumps radically because of the increase in property values. So that actually what happens is, say, for the education fund, people are paying more into the education fund than they would have previously for the same amount of students.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion on that?
No,
Okay, and I think we don't have any.
Do we vote?
No, I don't think we needed
No,
that.
the only,
Just
we
a
voted,
report.
voted on turning.
We voted on
The only thing that I was
Yes.
asking about.
And the rest of it was just Doug's report.
Yeah.
the rest was
Yes.
just discussion.
Okay.
Okay,
Deal with
so if Doug is completed and if no one has questions for Doug, we will move on to the Development Review Board. There is a meeting notice to be, noted here. And then, Mr. Damon is going to update on a site visit. Yes, as long as, I believe, as long as there are not names, if it's just general information.
Yeah. As we discussed earlier, we have a couple of dates
Yes.
for site visit, and those dates have come and gone. Well, tomorrow was set, and will come and gone. So I want to thank everyone that thought through that process and picked the dates and was willing to participate. Where we're at now, those dates that have come and gone were not selected because we're getting pushback from the other side. They don't want to have this site visit. So what I talked to Mr. Stasny, our attorney, this morning, and what he's saying now is, since these dates that we presented to the other side have come and gone, he is going to send a letter, and I don't know the technical name of it is, but he's going to send it and saying, okay, well, we need to mandate a date. So he's going to send that letter sometime this week. And once that letter is received, the other party will need 30 days to consider. So he said after that, we would have a set date.
Okay,
So the date that we picked is May 22nd, which is a Wednesday at 9 o'clock. That being said, when this letter arrives and we're going to push back, and that date that's written in stone is May 22nd, may change.
okay,
But before we were this far from the date, and we got a little closer to the 2 dates in the past, now we've got May 22nd. So we're getting the ends closer. So we'll have to see what happens when that letter arrives and what kind of pushback we get. If they push back on May 22nd, we are just going to tell them that we need them to pick a date, and we'll go from there. Right now, the date written in rock that may change is May 22nd. May 22nd, what time again? 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning. Okay. That's what we're presenting to them in this edict that's going out this week. And that's what I have to do.
okay. And then Tara, you were going to announce, a meeting.
Yep, we have a meeting with one item on the agenda for next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, again at the depot. And it's for a change of use on 5 Main Street. So anyone who's interested or invested can attend.
Okay,
What's 5 Main Street? Where
It's
is
the old,
Tim Smith, right?
haircut.
The hair place, yeah.
Oh, the hair place, oh, okay.
Bridget.
In between Powers and the old architect, Hulapoo.
The haircut store. That's-
Yeah.
okay,
So that's one of.
okay, good. All right, any questions among members here for the DRB? Seeing and hearing none, let's move along to the Planning Commission. And Kim has a couple of items that he will be discussing. All yours.
First item is, the potential purchase of, NFPA 1720. NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Association. It's the organization that writes all of the national fire codes. 1720 is a code which addresses volunteer fire departments and sets standards for those kinds of organizations. There is a copy in Rutland that I could go and drive and see. And I could go to Rutland and also look at it online. They have it online at Bennington, but they won't let me look at it
Oh,
because it's there.
okay.
subscription to all of their codes. And so, it costs $150. And it would give the trustees criteria upon which to, and the planning commission primarily, to judge whether or not the building is appropriately organized, appropriately sized, certainly not appropriately located. We know it's a flood zone. But as we address solutions to that, having 1720 would give us the baseline criteria that the national code feels are appropriate for volunteer fire departments.
Sounds like a good idea.
Would this would probably be useful for the fire department themselves to
Absolutely,
have,
absolutely.
which they may or may not have right now, we don't know.
Very much.
Yes. And even if it is, spending $150 for a newer copy would probably be a benefit to them.
They're updated every 2 years. This is, the latest one is 2020.
Okay,
So it might be updated in the next year or two, but those updates are usually relatively measured.
okay.
Huge.
Does this get into the minutia of building codes and all that, or is it just organizational fire department stuff?
I think it gets into a great deal.
Oh,
So I don't know.
So it sounds like
I haven't seen it
very
yet,
well.
I think it discusses response times, number of personnel per vehicle, just organization things. One of the things that I have been studying is the proper organization of a fire station. And based on the size of the building, I don't believe that it would be possible to organize the fire station appropriately. And the issue that is most pressing in that organization is controlling contaminants. After a fire incident, they're covered in carcinogenic contaminants. And as a result, they need to properly decontaminate their gear, their equipment, the truck, the hoses, everything. And if they simply hang up their gear, go home and wash their laundry in their, by their wife probably, in their laundry, that's very dangerous and has led to a very high incidence of cancer involved in the fire departments. So there's a proper organization to decontaminating. Typically, you dock your gear, bag it before you leave the incident. Come back, wash your helmet, wash your boots, put in a decontamination room, all the gear, put it through an extractor, put it through a dryer, take a shower, all your clothes off, on new clothes, put those clothes in a commercial washer at the station, dryer, etc. This is the proper organization of fire station. Then you go from the red zone, they call it hot zone, to the transition areas in the building, and then into the green zone, which are the offices and training spaces. I can give you an example of such an organization that I've been working on with the concept of relocating our current fire station to land that the village owns, which is at the garage. This is conceptual. So we haven't talked to the fire department. I haven't talked to the fire department. They're going to be addressing this with the planning commission as a group. So that hasn't been done yet. So this is a very, very early stage of development. And I'll show you these drawings in a second, but I also took a seminar today through VLCT on grant writing.
I did that last year.
And this is one of 3 seminars about grant writing, and clearly it's a very rich and complex process to get a grant. A lot of accounting issues, a lot of governance issues, project management issues, risk, insurance, you name it, it just gets very complex. There are 2 people with the state who are there simply to help you write grants, federal grants. There are grants through the USDA for villages under 5,000 for fire station reconstruction, replacement. They have identified every village and town in Vermont and told you how much your grant allocation could be. Ours is 75%. So that means we would have a match of 25% of the cost of a new fire station. There are other funds available through the state currently where they will purchase properties in flood zones. They would purchase the current fire station as long as we committed to demolishing it and replacing it with grass.
Who would pay for the demolition?
They
Okay.
purchase the property. Actually, the cost of demolition, I think. But they would pay for the property.
Would they be willing to pay the 25% difference for that parcel? We set a selling price? Or are they gonna assess the value of the property that they see fit?
They assess the value and they'll purchase the property for that value as long as we commit to not using that property again.
No, I understand that point, but I was just thinking, because even 25% of new firehouse would be a significant number.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying that there's a equal trade-off there by any means. There would be probably a bond required to pay certainly a substantial number. So if we shoot in the dark here and say that the fire station would cost $1.3 million, which is possible at current prices, 1.3 million, we'd have to pay 25%. We could get some of that knocked off with the sale of that property, but we would have a substantial bond. And the loan portion of the grant, because it's a grant for 75% and a loan of 25%. The loan can have a term of 40 years.
And it's very low interest
It's 3.5 at the moment,
at the moment, but it's, yeah.
it's gonna change.
But the 40 years makes a huge difference.
Well, you don't have to do that.
No, but it's
So-
lower. It's a
But
lot lower
it is,
every year.
yeah.
You spread it out.
You spread it out, but you end up paying
Right.
a lot more.
Yes, it just depends on whether you want to burden a generation.
Good point.
But that's so
Yeah,
far in the
that's so
future.
far.
The fact of the matter is there is money to do this. There is money to get this done. It has been in the plans to look at this. So it's not something that, it is something that that could certainly be considered.
So,
And
yeah, that is an alternative perspective that we have to pursue, because we were talking about redoing the heating
that's exactly right. So there's,
and the insulation.
right, and so there are short-term and long-term things to
Right.
discuss. And as long as Kim has been educating himself on the grant process, and then I had sent to
I
everybody.
appreciate that.
Right, and I had sent out that information, which we still can do, much smaller, but also USDA. And it is to, provide equipment to volunteer firefighters. It is beyond my ability to do alone, but I still will say I would be happy to have a meeting with whomever is interested. There is time, although not much. There's about a week and a half left to apply for that, but it's something that we could look at in future years. Every year it comes up. Yes, there are,
we've missed this year.
so essentially we've missed this year because unless we start something tomorrow, we're not. That's a much smaller type of a loan than this. So there are two USDA things that come out aside from this for helping volunteer firefight companies.
I have a few things to say about this. I'm very concerned the direction this is going. Are we a hammer looking for a nail? I mean, what exactly is the problem? First of all, just because the government decided that the fire station was in a flood zone, that entire area hasn't been flooded in 250 years. On top of that, our firefighters might engage in a legitimate, dangerous fire once every 2 or 3 years. We're not talking about someone in Syracuse, with a professional fire department that might, on a weekly basis find themselves exposed to these contaminants. I can't believe that the discussion has gotten to where we need to build a new fire department for $1.3 million.
I'm just bringing it up because it was brought up in the 2018 village plan. And I think it will be repeated I can't speak for our planning commission yet because we haven't even discussed this, but it certainly will be a topic of discussion in the latest planning commission and our rewrite of the village plan that we have an essential services building, which is in a flood zone. I can't speak to the history of the last 250 years, other than obviously it was inundated when the dam collapsed in the 1850s. No, it's up to the trustees. I mean, what is the direction that the planning commission should take on the fire department?
Well, I'd like to make a point that if we move the fire department and everything was hunky-dory up there on the hill and the dam broke, then still the whole rest of the central village will be wiped out. So the fire department is one component. I think we need to focus on making sure that dam up there never breaks, rather than moving stuff out of the way.
Which dam are you talking about, Scott? Which
The
dam?
dam, the lake dam.
Oh, for Christ's sake. That lake doesn't even hold enough water to cause any destruction below. It's so filled in, and then
I'd like to see your engineering license.
I've heard that.
That's an unknowable thing for a layman, I think.
I've heard that from the engineers that have looked at the dams. There's a very low water volume element behind either of those dams that would create a situation. But
go ahead.
No.
But the dam people are going to be coming out.
The dam people have been out.
Yeah, and we are also doing
The dam inspector.
the dam, thank you.
Could take it a couple different ways.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's also going to be some statewide or area-wide tabletop exercises on flooding and dam breaching and things like that. So I think over the course of the next few months or more, we will be getting a lot more information on the type of risk, the probability of such, and the damage that can be done what the planning commission was looking at, and specifically Ken, is saying if this were something that was one of several pieces, not the, but one issue that has been in the, things to, I'm searching for the words, known hazards that could be rectified. This is one of them, and Kim has been doing some research and education on his own time and working with some sketches to say, if this were pursued, then what would it look like? What would,
Well, we've also received the dam inspection reports.
yes,
Dam inspection report from 2022 says that the dam is hydraulically insufficient and that in their terms, it could overflow the crest of the dam by several feet. And they said a failure of the dam, as they listed as high hazard because a failure of the dam would create loss of life.
Wow.
This is their inspection, not mine.
I get
That's
it.
2022. And then there was a follow-up. They said that the maintenance was poor, the monitoring was insufficient, and they left it that way, that the owner of the dam, who is V-Trans, has not maintained the dam appropriately. Norm and I went and looked at the dam with the inspection report in front of us, and we concluded that it seems unlikely that they could remove the stop logs from that dam at the appropriate scale to lower the lake in the event of an inundation. So if we were gonna get 20 inches of rain, there would be very little opportunity to lower the water level appropriately. And the dam would be
It would
overflowed.
be overwhelmed. The lake would be overwhelmed. We got 20 inches.
But there is a method of lowering the lake
Yes, but.
by the removal of stop logs.
But if we got 20 inches, we're talking billions and billions and billions of gallons, whereas
Yeah.
the lake only holds 50 million to 100 million. So even if we could store 100 million, it still would be nothing compared to what was coming.
That's not a scam.
A 20-inch scenario.
Right, yeah, and they have various scenarios which they list out in their chart. If we could get a commitment by V-Trans to maintain the dam more appropriately, I think that would be certainly advantageous. If they were able to change the method of lowering the water level to a, hydraulically assisted sluice, I don't know exact, sluice gate,
Yeah.
that would be very advantageous, because I don't think they could possibly appropriately maintain that dam in the case of a heavy rain.
As opposed to the logs, it have
As
to be.
stop log.
lifted up.
Lifted out one by one. I mean, they give you a platform smaller than this chair seat to
Right.
stand on either side. And how you could possibly get these things out, I
And the
don't know.
top of the dam is all slippery with algae while you're standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a good setup.
It's not a good setup. And the water, the width of this thing for letting that water out is about the width of this chair.
It's 4 feet wide, 8 feet deep.
I mean,
And
the
that's-
amount of water pouring out of there at that one location would be like a fire hose, in that event. I don't think it's well thought out. And as a result, I think we have issues for that we need to
Yeah.
study in terms of risk management.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that's something you need to undertake. I don't know, is that the planning commission's to do or?
Well, the plan commission has to write the
Yeah.
village plan, it
Yeah.
has to do an emergency management,
Right.
section to that village plan.
And is that, so what role does the do the trustees have? Do we participate in the writing of that particular section because we have to examine the actual hazard that could be posed? I don't know, I'm not sure I understand whether we just have an oversight role or we have a role to participate in that particular section of the plan because it's an expensive proposition. Plus it means dealing with the owner of the dam, which is not us. And maybe find our attempts to get them to do something unwelcome.
Well, that's one of the issues associated with V-Trans. We know about the other one, which is, we started to talk about previously, about the trains, which I'll refer to as bomb trains.
Right.
And I've done some research on that, and we can discuss that maybe in another meeting, as you wish. It's not on the agenda.
Is that something maybe we charge the planning commission with pulling together information and alerting us, keeping us informed about what you're discovering, because it seems like we're gonna have to make a decision about this at some point.
One of the things that will go into that decision-making is that the dam safety group, I'm not sure what their title is, has no enforcement authority. So they do the inspection, therefore what? Nothing. They're only come into play if the dam is imminently failing.
Then they have some authority.
Apparently, they have some authority at that point.
But how that's defined and whether in imminent, there's even time to do anything is unclear.
Right.
Well, there's some climate information and climate risk information that needs to be
And,
compiled.
and that is going to be part of the
That's going to be
plan.
done
Yes,
as part of the plan.
as part of the village plan. There's a number of updates and a lot of detailed information that we still have to suss out who will know and where we get.
Right.
BCRC will need to be involved with that. But I guess my understanding of this is that we look at all of these things and then you go from best case to nothing. And where do you land in between? So knowing what your best case solution is not a bad idea, in my opinion.
No, I think that's very smart. And that's what we
And then you
should be
know.
striving.
Yes, and whether gold standard is achievable is a different discussion.
But when
But
it
at
comes
least
to
know that-
dam safety, we gotta go for the gold standard, I think. And, we gotta be pushing for that
Yeah,
and not accept any
and
compromise.
then along with this, you're looking at what are the hazards and then how do you mitigate them? Because maybe not all you can correct, but what can you mitigate? To what degree?
Yeah.
I think we need to broach one more subject.
Yeah.
That is a meeting that was held here the last couple of weeks with college,
Yes.
Bennington. We met with the new head of safety and asked him about his hazardous condition plans for what he expected from the village, what he can offer to the village, where he plans to shelter his students and his faculty in the case of XYZ. We talked about, the range of hazards can run from hurricane and tornado and shooting incident and so forth. So we went down that list briefly, and we had the town of Bennington here, the town manager, the head of the select board, and their emergency management director, who is the chief Doucette, who's the head of police. We also had Dara Zink from BCRC, who is the emergency management coordinator for our regional planning commission. And so we broached the subject of emergency plans and what we're doing, what they're doing, and so forth, and had a lively discussion. He's very new to his position, so he's building staff and was appreciative of the opportunity to meet with us and discuss this. We talked about shelters, and pretty much that's how the conversation tended. And a Red Cross shelter does not exist in the village. The village school, we talked to the head of the village school, Mary and I did, and there is no emergency power there. There are no showers. There's no accommodation for cots or pets or anything. So it could be a gathering.
Stockpiles, there's supplies, there's none of that either.
None of that. So, and the Red Cross has long ago listed the village school as a shelter, which is nonsense and it is incorrect. Red Cross is now out of New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire, and I think they're a long way from keeping up with what the municipalities have and don't have.
So the middle school is still.
Middle school is
Is the only
the
shelter,
only shelter
the only one.
For the whole town of Bennington.
for the whole
Yes,
town of
and North
Bennington
Bennington.
and North Bennington, yeah. Now Shasbury has apparently some accommodations as well, but that's it. In the event of, I don't know, a loss of a bridge or a heavy flood in the river, the village is bifurcated. And so we're trying to talk about, do we need things on both sides? Do we need to go to New York and address shelter in Hoosick? I mean, what do we need to discuss? And we asked the college, do you have any accommodations for shelter? They would need to have emergency power, a sprinklered space, obviously large enough for cots and all the rest of that, bathrooms. And they do have the green wall,
That, and then the back of the building,
Oh,
part of the
green
back.
wall?
green
Yes,
wall, the
green.
auditorium
And then part of the back of the building.
is sprinklered.
Mhm.
It's unclear how much emergency power have. They do have emergency power there. I don't know if it completely covers the auditorium. He wasn't clear on that yet. And he has not addressed the village using the facility.
Their
With his
willingness to
administration.
host us.
So
No,
we don't know that. So
yeah.
this was the first foray
No, that
into
was very
discussion
good.
this.
And this was in anticipation of updating and improving the LEMP that we have to do by the end of this month.
What is that again?
Local Emergency Management Plan. Okay, and that, we will likely adopt one fairly similar to the one that we currently have, but we can add addendums to that at any time. And some agreement with the college or other, whether it's Shaftesbury, New York, other things in Bennington, we can add those in as we go, but at least this plan should highlight the things that we absolutely do not have in this village. And then the addendums will say, okay, now, is there any way to mitigate those hazards and those risks?
The state, more or less says, first 72 hours, you're on your own.
Yeah.
So while they can marshal all these support functions for us, first 72 hours, you're on your own. So emergency power for 72 hours.
Food, water.
Food, water, cots, you know, someplace that's heated or cooled, depending on what the event is. That's all necessary.
Well,
So-
that bears a lot of thinking about, given, the possibility of a repeat of Irene or worse.
I think everyone recognizes that due to climate change, the ups and downs are gonna be greater, the predictability is less.
Plus,
And
all the infrastructure was built before anybody ever thought that there would be climate change.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
Yeah.
pre-programmed into their construction at the time.
But that's another reason why the state is pushing for every municipality to have representatives at the REMC, the Regional Emergency Management Group, because of the likelihood, for lack of a better word, that the state is going to face something worse than we have.
Yeah.
How many inches was Irene?
4.6, I think.
That's it?
Yeah.
So, you know,
And they came at a very saturated
yeah.
time.
Time, yes.
So all the ground was already saturated by weeks of rain before that.
But in just my opinion, because no decision has to be made, but in my opinion, there's no harm in sussing out what we can do to really gold standard protect the village. And if that is replacing a firehouse, let's at least know what's involved. It may not be necessary at the end, but at least let's know.
So the DCRC would give us the scenarios, would they not?
What do you mean, the scenarios?
I mean, do they not have some planning that tells them, or some information that deals with various, well, we're talking floods here, rainfall and floods.
We do in our hazard mitigation plan that we got the grant for BCRC to help do that a year, 2 years ago, whenever that was, it seems like forever. That does address some of those very historic events and the hazards that come with them. What BCRC now is doing with regards to hazards is they're chairing the regional commission, the REMC, and then they will also help with they also gather the LEMPs, the local plans. Those local plans are gathered by BCRC. They go to the state. They're set in with the emergency people so that in the event something happens, it's a contact list. The local plan is not, what do we do? It's really
more thinking in terms of, and if we're planning, we're gonna be planning for some sort of likelihood of a particular sort of event. And since rain is one of those things that we're talking about, who's establishing likelihood of rain events on the order of, say, 1926 flood.
the dam safety inspection report identifies a number of inches of rain associated with different events.
Right.
And they have various initials that define those gradations. And I can show you what the report says, but they identify the number of inches.
Yeah, well, I guess
But,
that's,
you know, is it gonna be a tornado? Or is it gonna be
yeah,
you know, you don't know exactly what it's gonna be.
yeah, there's wind events, that's all.
Sure.
Can we get a motion? I think a motion is probably needed to empower Kim to pursue purchasing the
The report,
NFPA.
the 1720
Yes.
report, I'll make a motion for that.
Okay,
How much of the cost is it?
$150.
We can
Fine.
Yeah.
work that. I'll second it.
Okay. Hearing no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good.
Okay,
That motion is done, so if you can go ahead and,
I'll purchase it.
yes.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for the.
Or if you know what it is, get with Doug. Doug has the credit card that can possibly, or debit card, right? You could,
What's easier for you?
I'll purchase it.
okay,
And then just email me the invoice.
Okay.
Perfect.
okay. All right.
Thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
on this.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
We look forward to more work all.
And please know that all of the planning commission meetings are open to the public. I know Scott has come.
When is
to
the next one?
The next one is
Wednesday, next Wednesday.
next Wednesday.
A week from tomorrow?
Oh,
We,
A week from tomorrow.
oh, I'm doing the software update. Oops. Okay. And that will, that agenda will be out and those will be posted. Under the old business, well, we'll get to the LENT and we've already talked about that. We'll talk about, when, continuing that meeting. The other one is though that we need to get approvals for the water department to get the standby power generator that they have a, grant for. Trustees need to I just need two pages where all the trustees sign, then we get Doug to sign in a number of places, and then I will take it to Lori and get her to sign it and send it on, but this
Don't
is.
need a motion on that? Oh, we do.
I think so, yes. This is a loan that they have been guaranteed. It is a grant, not just a loan, but it will be for $146,340, and it is to purchase and install backup generation for the water department. Absolutely
Which is
necessary.
required by the state.
Yes, yes,
So, yeah, I remember Dave telling us
Yes.
about
Have
that.
they
Yes.
not had this or?
no, they do not have a generator, a sufficient generator up there. Thank you, Ken.
I'll move, that we approve this loan.
Okay.
I'll second.
And seconded by Tara. Any question from Matthew or anybody else?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
They have a grant.
yes, they have a grant, or it's called a loan, but they get it and then it's the forgivable loan.
Okay. So, yes,
Okay. And
call the question.
yes, all in favor of that?
Aye.
So we will get this signed and you can look and see here where you need to sign it. And there's two different places. Then the other thing is, let's see, I don't think we have any new, just very quickly, just because we had a discussion on email, but trustees approved that we would send a letter of support to the state for parent recreation to continue to do some weed control work without having to have $5,000 surveys done, every time they wanted to pursue this. So that letter was approved by trustees and it was sent off. But it was done via email, so just making sure that that's done. If no one else has any other business right now, then let's look at when we might continue this meeting, or Lori, should we hold off until after our executive session? Is that okay to do now, to figure out when we're continuing our meeting?
You got two places.
Yeah, I mean, I won't, you can decide, but I'll add that at the end.
Okay,
Someone can make a motion to continue the meeting until.
well, let's do that now.
We're
Let me
waiting at Adrian, so we should do that before he comes on.
Okay. Okay, so can people look at their calendars for the rest of the month? We should probably do this no later than the 23rd or 24th of April. But we do need to have the fire department represented there because they're integral on the LENP. and I don't want to put any names without people knowing. So I suspect we won't know, well, what do we do? Do we just set up a meeting and say this is when it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So people look at your calendars, and do you want next week or the week thereafter? And if a Tuesday works with people, we can stick with the Tuesday.
Well, we can't do Tuesday the 16th because we have a DRB meeting.
Oh, that's right.
What is this with?
We have to finish the LENP, and this body has to do it. So, yeah. So the 23rd, does that work for people?
Yeah.
And that's a Tuesday?
That's a Tuesday.
Okay.
Do you want to do it at 7 o'clock, or do you want to do it earlier?
I'm flexible. I can go in either
Matthew,
way.
what works best for you?
What day
Tuesday, the 23rd
of April?
of April.
Yeah.
Or is a Wednesday better?
No, Tuesday's probably best.
Okay. And is 7 o'clock the best time for you?
On a Tuesday, yes. 6:30 maybe.
Okay. What I will try to do is I will get a hold of Chief Myers and see if he can approve some of the language, and then send out work with Kim and others to get the draft done and sent out, so that hopefully it will be a brief meeting then on the 23rd. But we will also have to make our appointments to the REMC. So we'll have to appoint the primary member to the REMC and then adopt the LEMP. If that's not too many acronyms.
It is.
That's your limit.
Okay.
Mary, keep an eye out for Ed trying to get on the Zoom.
Oh, I do see that.
Yeah, I
Okay,
just-
so we then need to, can you make the appropriate motions, Tara?
Yeah, what are there? There are two, right?
Oh.
That the issue that we have to talk about is would put undue knowledge into, what is that?
Oh, it would put.
So let me do it.
Okay.
Yes.
Trustee Lowry made a motion to enter into an executive session for the purpose of legal matters where premature disclosure would put the village at a disadvantage.
Yes.
And Matthew seconded it.
This I did.
And then Matthew made a motion to enter into an executive session.
And I'll second it.
Sarah,
And we're all in favor of
voted by
that.
all in attendance.
Okay, so I am going, but just for the public here, I'm going to cease the recording or pause it. When we come out, is there business that needs to be discussed in open session?
I don't know that this is something that needs a motion after, right?
I don't know, I'm asking you, I don't know.
Okay. Well, you can ask Ed when he's in there.
Okay, all right, so for the time being, we are pausing the recording, we are entering executive session. Thank you.
Recording stop.